Somewhere between pain and pleasure lies a hidden path. A path that leads beyond all suffering, beyond every illusion of control. It's not a road built by gods or prophets, but discovered by a man who once had everything the world could offer, and gave it all away. Before empires and monuments, before enlightenment became a word whispered in meditation halls, there was simply a young prince named Siddhartha Gautama. His story didn't begin in poverty or despair. It began in luxury, in a palace where every desire was granted before it could even be spoken. He was born under the shadow of prophecy. The wise men said, "He will either become a great king or a great liberator of souls." His father, terrified of the latter, built golden walls around his son, walls so high that no hint of pain, no whisper of death, no shadow of age could reach him. The prince lived surrounded by laughter, by wine and music, by gardens so perfect they seemed carved from dreams. But even paradise, when repeated every day, becomes a cage. Siddhartha's heart began to stir with questions no feast could silence. He would look at his reflection in pools of still water and wonder, what lies beyond these gates? Why does joy feel so fragile? That subtle ache, an invisible crack in a perfect life, was the first step toward awakening. When he finally convinced his charioteer, Channa, to take him beyond the golden walls, the world unfolded before him like a revelation carved in pain. First, he saw an old man, wrinkled, frail, struggling to walk. He had never seen age before. The shock hit him like thunder. "Will this happen to everyone?" he asked. Channa nodded. "Yes, my lord. No one escapes time." Days later, he saw a man trembling with sickness, his eyes sunken with fever, his body gasping for life. Siddhartha's voice broke as he asked, "Can this happen to me?" "Anyone," said Channa softly, "can fall ill at any moment." Then came the third sight, a funeral procession moving slowly through dust and incense, a body wrapped in cloth carried toward the flames. For the first time, death wasn't an idea, it was real, final, absolute. He looked at the mourners, at their tears and prayers, and a question echoed through him like a storm. If all must die, what meaning does life hold? But amidst all that sorrow, he saw something else. A calm figure walking barefoot through the chaos. A monk, dressed in simple robes, his eyes serene as a still lake. No wealth, no fear, no struggle, just peace. And in that man's stillness, Siddhartha glimpsed a truth that no pleasure in the palace had ever revealed. That peace was possible even in the midst of suffering. That night, he could no longer close his eyes. While others slept, he stood at his window, watching the moonlight spill across the silent courtyards. His wife, Yasodhara, and their newborn son lay sleeping, symbols of the life most men would die to protect. Yet in his heart, something vast was calling. A whisper older than time saying, "There is more." At 29, Siddhartha walked away from everything. Not out of indifference, but out of love. The kind of love that dares to search for freedom not just for oneself, but for every being that breathes and suffers. He stepped barefoot into the night, leaving behind a crown, a kingdom, and a name. In that single act of renunciation, a prince died and a seeker was born. He journeyed through forests and villages until he met Alara Kalama, a sage known for his deep mastery of meditation. Under his guidance, Siddhartha plunged into the infinite depths of consciousness, learning to dissolve thoughts, sensations, even the sense of self. He reached a realm of pure nothingness, a silence beyond form, beyond body, beyond the world itself. But when he returned from that state, the same ache remained, the same question still burning. If suffering returns the moment we awaken from meditation, is this truly liberation? Alara smiled and said, "There is no higher state than this." But Siddhartha knew otherwise. He bowed, thanked his teacher, and moved on. Because truth, when it calls, doesn't let you stop halfway. His path led him next to Uddaka Ramaputta, another master who taught even subtler realms of formless existence, the state of neither perception nor non-perception, a razor's edge between being and nothingness. Again, Siddhartha mastered it swiftly, and again, when he returned to the world of breath and bone, the same truth whispered to him. This too is impermanent. This too shall fade, so he left once more. Not because the teachers had failed him, but because he had seen that even the highest heavens of meditation could not free the heart from the chain of craving. He had touched the limit of the mind, and now he had to go beyond it. When the mind had shown him all its limits, Siddhartha turned to the body. If the mind could not deliver freedom, perhaps the body could be purified through suffering. So he joined a band of ascetics, men who believed that the body was a prison to be conquered, a beast to be starved into submission. They stripped themselves of comfort, of warmth, of nourishment. They believed that if the flesh could be silenced, the spirit would speak. And Siddhartha, with the same intensity that once ruled a kingdom, began to wage war against himself. Days blurred into nights of unrelenting discipline. He ate almost nothing, sometimes a single grain of rice a day. His ribs pressed like roots through paper skin, his breath came shallow, and his strength faded until he was nothing more than a shadow under the trees. The world dimmed around him, sight, sound, even the beating of his own heart. Yet within that fading silence, a strange clarity grew. He began to see that the self he was trying to destroy could not be slain by starvation. Still, he pushed on, fueled not by pride, but by the desperate longing to pierce the veil of existence. Pain became his constant companion. He sat unmoving through cold nights and blistering days, feeling the insects crawl upon his skin until his senses no longer distinguished between agony and peace. The other ascetics revered him as a living saint. They whispered that he stood on the very edge of enlightenment. But Siddhartha knew better. He had learned to endure suffering, but he had not yet transcended it. One afternoon, weakened to the point of collapse, he wandered to the edge of a quiet river. His mind was slipping between waking and dream when a soft sound reached his ears. The delicate strumming of a veena, a stringed instrument played by a musician drifting downstream. Through the haze, he heard the master instructing his student, "If the string is too tight, it will snap. If it is too loose, it will not sing. Only in balance does it find its true voice." The words struck him like lightning in the dark. In that single, simple metaphor, the universe revealed itself. He saw the error of his extremes. Indulgence and denial were merely two sides of the same illusion. Neither the palace nor the forest could hold the truth. It was balance, the middle way, that held the key. The body was not an enemy to be conquered, nor a toy for pleasure. It was a vessel, sacred and fragile, meant to be cared for, not destroyed. The river whispered its eternal rhythm as realization bloomed in him like dawn breaking over the world. He fell to his knees, tears and exhaustion mingling in the water. The path was not about escape, nor self-punishment. It was about harmony. He would walk the line between the two worlds, neither drowning in desire nor strangled by denial. The next morning, the sun rose over the forest, golden and alive. Siddhartha sat beneath a banyan tree, his body trembling with weakness. A young woman named Sujata passed by carrying a bowl of rice and milk. Seeing his frail form, she felt compassion stir in her heart and offered it to him. For the first time in years, he accepted nourishment. It wasn't food that filled him that day, it was clarity. The other ascetics, horrified, turned away from him in disgust. They called him a failure, a traitor to the path of renunciation. But Siddhartha no longer needed their approval. He had seen that truth cannot be owned, cannot be confined by the doctrines of men. It is lived, breathed, and discovered anew within each moment of awareness. He thanked Sujata with a smile that seemed to hold the peace of centuries. The strength returned to his limbs, and with it came a quiet certainty. The long wandering had ended. Now it was time to face the heart of illusion itself. He walked to the foot of a great fig tree, the Bodhi Tree, and sat down beneath it. He crossed his legs, placed his hands upon his lap, and breathed deeply. As the first stars pierced the veil of twilight, he made a silent vow. I will not rise from this place until I have seen the truth with my own eyes, until I have pierced the root of all suffering. Even if my flesh should wither, I will not move. The forest grew still around him. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Days passed, then nights, and time dissolved into the vastness of his meditation. But as he approached the threshold of awakening, a force stirred in the unseen. That force was Mara, the embodiment of illusion, the shadow of desire and fear that guards the gates of liberation. Mara came not as a monster, but as the reflection of everything the mind clings to. Temptation, power, pride, doubt. He whispered in Siddhartha's thoughts, "Who are you to seek truth? What makes you think you can defy the gods themselves?" Siddhartha did not answer. He simply breathed, aware of the rise and fall of his chest, of the stillness between each breath. Then Mara sent his daughters, shapes of irresistible beauty, the personifications of lust and longing. They danced before him, radiant and ethereal, promising joy, love, and fulfillment. Siddhartha saw through them as one sees through mist. Their beauty was transient, their promises hollow. They faded like smoke before his calm gaze. Frustrated, Mara unleashed storms of fire and armies of demons. The sky roared, lightning split the heavens. But Siddhartha sat unmoved, his heart steady as a mountain. He knew that what he faced was not an external enemy, but the final veil of his own mind, the sum of all attachments, fears, and illusions. Finally, as the night deepened, Mara demanded, "Who bears witness to your right to sit upon this ground?" In answer, Siddhartha touched the earth with the fingertips of his right hand, and the earth itself trembled. It bore silent witness, declaring before the cosmos Anov, "This is my ground." Here the seeker becomes the awakened. The storm ceased, the night grew luminous, and for the first time since the beginning of all his journeys, Siddhartha Gautama found himself utterly still, not because he resisted, but because there was nothing left to resist. Dawn broke softly, its first light spilling like liquid gold across the earth. The shadows withdrew, and so too did the veil of ignorance that had cloaked the mind of man for eons. Under the great Bodhi tree, Siddhartha Gautama sat motionless, but within him, universes shifted. He was no longer the prince who sought meaning, nor the ascetic who battled flesh and bone. He had become stillness itself, a mirror through which existence reflected its own infinite truth. And as the final trace of Mara's illusion dissolved into silence, a great vision opened before him. The tapestry of all life, woven from threads of cause and effect, birth and death, joy and sorrow. He saw everything that had ever been, and everything that would ever be. Not as separate things, but as ripples within the same vast ocean of consciousness. And in that eternal moment he understood. The first revelation was impermanence, anicca. He saw that all things arise and fade like waves on the sea. No joy, no pain, no thought, no breath endures forever. Even the stars live and die in the silent rhythm of time. To cling to what must change is to invite suffering. For the heart that demands permanence in an impermanent world is like a man trying to hold the wind. Then came the second revelation, dukkha, the truth of suffering. He saw that to exist is to be touched by loss, for every birth carries within it the seed of death. Every union hides the shadow of separation. Every desire carries the pain of its own impermanence. But he also saw that suffering itself was not a curse. It was a teacher, unyielding, compassionate, and just. It revealed where illusion clung and where freedom could begin. The third revelation bloomed like a lotus from the mud. Tanha, craving, the cause of all sorrow. He saw that the human heart, ever reaching, ever wanting, was the architect of its own prison. We chase pleasure and run from pain, not realizing that both are shackles forged from the same metal. Desire, attachment, fear, they are the roots that bind the soul to the wheel of becoming. When we say mine, when we say me, we chain ourselves to what can never stay. But then the fourth revelation rose like the morning sun. Nirodha, the cessation of suffering. He saw that liberation was not an escape, but an awakening. A deep, radical acceptance that nothing need be grasped, that peace does not depend on circumstances, but arises naturally when the mind no longer clings. When the grasping hand opens, suffering falls away like dust in light. As the light of realization flooded his being, the illusion of separation shattered. There was no Siddhartha, no tree, no world, only awareness itself, boundless and still. He saw that even the concept of self was a mirage, a story told by thought and memory. And when that story fell silent, what remained was pure clarity, luminous and free. The earth breathed with him. The birds sang not to him, but as him. The wind through the leaves was his own breath. He had not escaped the world. He had become one with it. In that instant, the seeker vanished, and the Buddha, the awakened one, was born. They say he sat beneath that tree for 7 days and nights, his eyes half closed in serene wonder, absorbing the vastness of what had unfolded. He watched thoughts rise and fall, memories bloom and fade, without judgment, without attachment. Every breath was a revelation, every heartbeat a reminder of the simplicity of truth. When he finally opened his eyes fully, the morning star shimmered on the horizon. A smile touched his lips, not of joy, not of triumph, but of recognition. The same light that now shone in the heavens was the light that had always lived within him. And so he whispered softly, "Strange indeed how all beings carry within them the seed of awakening, and yet wander endlessly seeking outside what was never lost." He knew then that enlightenment was not a gift to keep, but a responsibility to share. The truth meant nothing if it did not ease the suffering of others. So he rose, each step upon the earth a silent prayer of gratitude. The birds followed his movement through the forest canopy, and even the air seemed to hum with reverence. For the first time, he walked not as a seeker, but as a teacher, not to preach, but to remind humanity of what it had forgotten, that liberation lies not in the heavens, but in the quiet recognition of what already is. In the days that followed, he met once more the 5 ascetics who had abandoned him when he accepted Sujata's bowl. When they saw him approach, his face radiant with serenity, they were struck speechless. They felt the weight of their own pride fall away, and before they could speak, the Buddha simply said, "Brothers, the way is neither indulgence nor denial. It is the path that walks between, the middle way. Listen, and I will show you how suffering ends." And beneath the same endless sky where he had once been a wanderer, he gave his first teaching. A truth so clear, so simple that it would echo through millennia. The 4 noble truths and the noble 8-fold path, not commandments but directions, a compass for the lost. It was not a doctrine to believe in, but a way to see, to walk, to be. A path that begins not in temples or scriptures, but in the silent space between 2 breaths, where awareness awakens to itself. The Buddha had found the map within, and now he would teach others to find theirs. The path was open, the wheel had begun to turn. The Buddha stood before the 5 wanderers who had once turned their backs on him, their eyes hollow with years of striving and self-denial. They had chased liberation through pain, as he once had, and found only exhaustion. But when they saw him now, his presence calm, his eyes vast as the sky, they sensed something beyond comprehension. There was no aura of superiority, no trace of pride, only stillness, like the hush before dawn. And so they sat. The forest was silent save for the rhythm of wind through leaves. Then the Buddha spoke, his voice soft yet carrying the weight of eternity. Brothers, there are truths that every being must one day see for themselves. They are not written in scripture nor whispered by gods. They are lived, they are breathed. He began with the first truth. Life, by its nature, carries suffering. Birth, aging, sickness, loss. These are woven into existence itself. Even pleasure, when clung to, becomes pain. We chase the sunrise and despair when it sets, forgetting that light and darkness are not enemies but partners in the same dance. Then came the second truth. Suffering has a cause. It is not the world that binds us, but our craving for it to be different. Desire, fear, attachment. These are the architects of our sorrow. Like moths drawn to flame, we mistake longing for life, and so we burn. The third truth shone like water in sunlight. Suffering can end. The fire of craving can be extinguished. When the mind ceases to grasp, when it lets go of mine and me, peace arises not as a gift, but as what was always there, hidden beneath the noise. And the fourth truth revealed the way, a living map known as the Noble Eightfold Path. A path not of belief but of practice, a way to live in harmony with the laws of existence. The Buddha spoke not as a prophet dictating commandments, but as one who had walked through the fire and emerged whole. He spoke of right view, seeing life as it truly is, impermanent and interconnected. Of right intention, acting from compassion, not ego or fear. Of right speech, words that heal, not harm. Of right action, conduct born of integrity and respect for all beings. Of right livelihood, to work without causing pain, to create without greed. Of right effort, the steady cultivation of what uplifts, and the release of what enslaves. Of right mindfulness, the sacred art of being here now, fully awake to every breath, and of right concentration, the discipline of stillness, the focused awareness that turns the mind into a clear mirror of truth. He said, "This is the middle way, where neither indulgence nor denial can reach you. Walk it with patience, and the roots of suffering will wither on their own." The 5 monks listened, and something in them shifted. The search that had once felt endless began to soften into understanding. For the first time, they felt the possibility that freedom did not lie in struggle, but in surrender. Not in fleeing the world, but in seeing it without distortion. And so, beneath the same Bodhi tree that had witnessed his awakening, the wheel of Dharma began to turn. From that moment, a new current entered the world, a path of awareness, compassion, and inner stillness that would ripple through centuries, across continents, and into the hearts of those yet unborn. The Buddha did not ask to be worshipped. He did not call himself divine. He simply said, "I am awake." And through those 3 words, he reminded humanity of its forgotten birthright, that every being has within them the same seed of awakening, waiting only for the light of attention to bloom. For the next 45 years, he walked barefoot across the plains of India, through cities and forests, deserts and rivers, speaking not of faith, but of freedom. Kings sat beside beggars in his presence. Warriors laid down their swords. Even thieves and outcasts found in his words a kind of homecoming. He taught that awakening was not distant, not reserved for saints or scholars, but accessible here now, in the simplest of acts. A mindful breath, a compassionate thought, a moment of silence where the noise of self begins to fade. He said, "As the candle gives itself to light the next, so too does wisdom grow when shared." And so, the teaching spread, not as dogma but as an invitation to see, to look directly at the impermanent, the uncertain, the painful, and to find peace not in avoiding them but in understanding them. Even as his hair turned silver, even as his body aged and his steps grew slow, the fire of compassion in him never dimmed. He knew that he would leave the world as all beings must, but what he had awakened to could never die. When his final hour came, he lay beneath a grove of sal trees, their blossoms falling like snow upon his robe. He turned to his disciples and said, "All things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." And with that final breath, the one who had been prince, seeker, and sage passed not into oblivion, but into the vast stillness he had always known to be home. The moon rose that night over a silent forest, but in the hearts of those who had heard him something luminous endured, a flame that no death could extinguish. Because the teaching was never about him, it was about us, it was about you. The listener who still feels that quiet ache inside, the one who knows there must be more than the noise of the world, and if you close your eyes now, if you listen past the hum of thought, you might hear it too. That same whisper that once called Siddhartha from his palace, the voice that says, "Wake up." The path was never out there. It has always been within you. And as long as there is a single being willing to listen, the Buddha still walks among us, not as a man, but as the awakening that stirs in every heart ready to remember its own light.